I think at the end of the day, we're all kind of unqualified, and I tell people this all the time in print school because some people want to make a product that help people in a certain thing, but they're still struggling with that thing. And they're like, I don't know, I feel like I have to have it all together in order to speak on this topic.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I don't really agree with that.
No.
I remember when you told me love like this, you never know.
Hello, welcome to Dear Diaries, and my name is Roserbie Theoc. Today I have a special guest. She is my mentor that she didn't know she was for me. Um, I met her through prayer. I asked God to allow me to do something, and He allowed me to meet Payne, who is the founder and the CEO of Horacio Printing. And I just love her story. I love the spirit of excellence that I got when I saw how she run her business, how she cares about the value of her assignment, and I would let her speak about it. But I just fell in love with Polly. I love the spirit of excellence and how she does her work with seriousness for God and to perfection. That were the best as she could. And so I love that about her because when you think about Christian products, Christian business and services, most times, it's not up to par. But Polly is not like that, and her business is not like that. The way she carries herself, everything I've seen about her is not like that, is with excellence. And so when I found her, I thank God so much because it gave me something to aspire to. And so without further ado, this is Polly, and I'm so happy that you're here.
Yay! Well, thank you so much for having me, Roserby. This has been just an honor to get to come onto your show. And I'm just sitting over here cheering you on with all of these amazing dreams. So, yay, I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. So tell us your story. I felt God impressed on my heart. Like how did he um how did you and him start the business, and just your walk with him and how it's been just seeing him move for you and
Mhm.
just your story.
Yeah. So, I had the dream implanted in my heart for a long time to have a business. I remember reading the book, The 4 Hour Work Week, and like getting inspired. And my dad is a small business owner, and so I had the dream to have my own business, and it was kind of on the back burner. I came up with an iPhone app actually first, but it was completely not purpose driven, but it was a
Hmm.
decent idea. But someone ended up taking it, and I was like, oh, my dream's dead. And I remember my dad saying, don't worry, you'll come up with something else. And so I worked in my early 20s in advertising technology in New York. I was in marketing and then in sales. And I really spiritually throughout my early 20s was just prodigal daughter journey, like totally off the bandwagon, just living my own life, trying to experience everything life had to offer. And um, part of my skill set is people skills. And so I found my way into sales. I found my way into taking people out every night and going to dinners and going to these parties and meeting with these people. And like,
Hmm.
I thought I enjoyed that and was good at it. And I started going back to church probably when I was 26. And I had a
Okay.
friend at work kept inviting me back to church. And so I started on this journey back to Jesus. And it was through the inspiration of my church and through the sermons and through the way that God met me on Sunday morning or Sunday afternoon. And he just kind of started peeling back that dream. And we had a speaker come to church one Sunday whose name is Erwin McManus, and his book
Hmm.
is called The Artisan Soul. And
Hmm.
the book is all about how, because we're created in the image of God, we're all artists, and your life is your canvas. Your life is your greatest work of art. And so we have to really own up to the fact that we're an artist and it's our job, it's our craft to intentionally create our life and our schedule and our time, and to cut out the stuff that is killing us or is not serving us or distracting us or wasting our time. And so
Mm-hmm.
that in that moment, I picked up his book and was reading it. And I was kind of at a rock bottom party time in my life. It was August of 2014. It was like birthday month, bachelorette party, engagement party, work events. And I remember just sitting in my bed going, what am I doing? Like, why am I doing this to myself? And I picked up the book and read it that night. And it was in that, midnight hour that I just felt God speak to me.
Mm-hmm.
And as I was drawing out this refocus cloud, which was like a bubble chart of everything going on in my life, he revealed to me that my skills of working with clients is actually a gift he gave me for ministry. And at that moment, I was just floored because I wasn't, walking it out properly. I wasn't living up to any sort of standard that I grew up in the church, so I knew what the standards were. And so I felt so floored that A, he would even speak to me, and then B, he dare want to use me. And so that was just like this huge revelation. And it was in that moment I knew I needed to get my life together. And so
Mm-hmm.
every time I feel like I need to get my life together, I would just make a planner out of a journal and, write out my schedule and like what I'm going to do, because I got to get back on the diet. I got to do this, got to fix my budget, got to make it to the end of the month, or like whatever it was. And so I just started really making a planner about who I want to become, less about
Mm-hmm.
like what I'm going to do, but who I want to become, and just thinking about my life as this work of art. And if you can craft your life, like the life you're sitting in is partly a reflection of how you've crafted it.
Yeah.
Like you are to blame, good or bad, not all of
Yeah.
it. There's things completely out of our control, but there's a lot of things, health things or relationship things, that we contribute to. We're not
Yeah.
always a victim, and so it was like, oh, wow, like I have a lot more control than I think I do on the outcomes and who I become next season. And so
Mm-hmm.
I made the planner, and then I met with two designers from my work, who were actually helping me on the iPhone app. And I was like, do you guys want to make a planner? And they were like, let's do it. And my calligraphy artist, she actually did the cover. If you're listening or if you're watching, you can see the poster behind me, of her original artwork. And so we just really wanted it to be excellent. We wanted it to be encouraging, and it was going to be unapologetically Christian. And I really
Mm-hmm.
felt strongly about that. My original dream was a customizable planner, but I just felt like, nope, this is God's dream. Like, I'm going to be unapologetically Christian. And that was big because people at work not everyone knew that about me. I wasn't
Yeah.
like obvious Christian gal in the
Mm-hmm.
office. And so
Yeah.
I knew I was going to get some like, oh, really? Like, okay, and so that was just like a step of faith and obedience. And it was also scary because I knew that my life wasn't living up to that standard either. And so,
Mm-hmm.
it was like this big adjustment, but it was such a beautiful thing to get to step into, and for
Yeah.
God to get to like refine me through that process and to teach me and to have intentional time where I am researching scripture to put in my product, and then later on making Bible studies and getting to research more scripture to put into my product, and encouraging people through my email account and my email subscription. And so it's been a beautiful journey. And that's really kind of when I partnered with God. And it was scary, but ultimately it was his dream. So it was just a matter of like stepping into it.
Mm. That's amazing. Because I find myself now, he's asked me to do something that super, I feel so unqualified for, and which is to teach wives. I've never been married, and he's giving me these downloads. And how did you get over, or how did you overcome not feeling qualified because of your past and everything to to get into that? Like what got you over this?
I think at the end of the day, we're all kind of unqualified, and I tell people this all the time in print school because some people want to make a product that help people in a certain thing, but they're still struggling with that thing. And they're like, I don't know, I feel like I have to have it all together in order to speak on this topic.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I don't really agree with that. I think, if you have made it a certain distance with that particular thing that you're dealing with, like let's say you want to help people through fitness journey, but
Yeah.
like you haven't reached peak, like, I don't know. Yeah. You know what I mean? I'm trying to think of like Jillian Michaels body, or, you don't have washboard abs yet. Like that doesn't disqualify you as
Yeah.
a place of an encouragement for that area,
Yeah.
I think it's just a matter of what's working for you, and then
Mm-hmm.
share that. Jesus and other apostles spoke, and they weren't married, and so,
Exactly.
and that's kind of funny. Like sometimes I think about the teachings of Jesus and it's like, okay, how do I relate this to a mom? Because Jesus never had kids. Jesus never had a mom. Like, how do I Sabbath? How do I take his teachings and then do it
Mm-hmm.
in a way that works for me? Because we weren't the same,
Yes.
the same
Yes.
circumstances. I'm not saying I like to trade places by any means. He went through some tougher things than I did, and have and will do. Um, but I think when you go back to you being the conduit,
Mm-hmm.
and the pressure is not on your shoulders. It's like you being the vessel, you being the conduit, you being
Mm-hmm.
the it's not your thing. You're just funneling it through, you know?
Exactly. Yeah.
So I think just keeping that in the forefront of your mind is what's important.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm going to remember that because he reminded me of, I think it was Gideon who kept saying, I'm not only the weakest. I mean, our family is not the best, but I'm the weakest of them all. And you're calling me to go to war. How does that work? And so,
Mhm.
yeah, I agree with you, is letting God be God through us.
Mhm.
Yeah. So the other thing that I loved about you, because you don't really promote this other business that you had, is the I forget what it's called. It's basically building God's business through his principles and use scripture to build. And I love that course. I'm just praying that God would tell you to, give it, I mean, promote it some more because we need it. A lot of businesses don't do well because they are not building on the principles of God the way you do, and the way you have scripture to really navigate through the objections, or navigate to tell you, instruct you how to build it. How did you come about with doing that course, and just, deciding to build with God the way you did? Like, how did you get to that place?
It's a good question. I think throughout my entrepreneurial journey, it's been like 10 years now, I've gotten a lot of people wanting mentorship, wanting advice, wanting to ask questions, wanting to pick my brain or whatever. And so when I was looking at beginning my journey of teaching other people,
Mm-hmm.
I've since launched 3 courses. My first course I launched was the dream crafting course to help people dream, because that kind of really revolved around my planner and like help people
Mm-hmm.
figure out like what is the dream, what is my purpose, which is, for some people it's really, sometimes it can be very tangible, sometimes it's intangible. It's such a broad topic.
Yes.
We would talk about like universal purpose that we all carry as Christians, and then very specific purpose. And so I did that for a while, and that was a really beautiful course and a really special time. And then I had a lot of people say, well, my dream is a business. Like, I know I need to start the business. And so that kind of led me to building the
Mm-hmm.
faith-filled business blueprint. And I had done some business coaching previously with a lot of different amazing people. I had people that were female coders, like just really great coders. I had an Olympian that was getting coaching with me for her coaching business and swim lesson business. And so I was doing coaching, and I would kind of listen to like what they really needed and just teach on that. And like that's kind of
Mm-hmm.
what I taught that week based on what they really needed to know. And
Yeah.
the faith-filled business blueprint, I decided to try to funnel in like, okay, if I could give someone like a 7-pillar framework of all the things you need to do to start and grow a business, what would they be? And then with every pillar, I really went to God and said, okay, God, what do you say about foundations? What do you say about accounting? What do you say about
Hmm.
marketing? What do you say about branding? And what do you say
Yeah.
about sales? And
Yes.
because I think as Christians, we can get really tripped up entering the world of business because we're taught obviously to not be greedy. We're taught not to be self-centered. We're taught not to uh misuse our finances or not steward our blessings well. And so there is like a
Yes.
lot of fear. There's also just fear in general. What are people going to
Yes.
think? What's going to happen if I risk and I fail? Like the fear of failure.
Yes.
We all are nervous about that. And success isn't guaranteed. You know, if you look at all the stories of the Bible, they weren't all guaranteed success. You know,
Yes.
they were guaranteed to learn. Like you're definitely
For,
guaranteed to
for
learn something
sure.
as you step out of your comfort zone. But
Yeah.
it's scary. And so that's when I created that course. I actually filmed it pregnant with my I filmed it twice. I think the second time I filmed it, I was pregnant with Charlie, my son. Um, and that was really special. But you can see as I film it, like, you know, my lips are getting bigger and like, I don't know if you noticed, just like the beautiful changes of pregnancy.
Yeah.
Um, you know, I think I'm like trying to breathe, you know, towards the end, it's like my lungs can't expand. Um, but yeah, I had that course for a while and then I launched Print School, my third course. And
Mm-hmm.
that was really the course that I felt strongly about because for me, it's the business model I know the most about. So if someone comes into Faithful Business Blueprint and they're trying to start a coffee shop,
Yes.
I am limited on helping people with a brick and mortar business.
Mm-hmm.
I can help anyone with like the foundations, but like really ironing out your business model, like I didn't feel as confident in that. And also, I hadn't really done a ton of coaching. And then one of the lessons is product development, and there's a million types of products to develop.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's service products, but it was just so broad that I said, you know what, I'm really going to go all in on just teaching print businesses. And so
Yeah.
that's when Print School was created in June of 2022. And since then, we've sadly retired the Faithful Business Blueprint. But you never know. I mean, it could come back. I just need to refilm it for sure.
I love it. I think the reason why I love it so much is because a lot of people don't think about taking God in with them in business. And
Yeah.
he cares about those all those details. And
Yeah.
so when you acknowledge him that way, you're just at an advantage. And so that's why I loved it so much because when I started for my photography business, I woke up one morning and I felt God waiting for me. And I'm like, "Oh, we have a meeting?" And I'm like, "Oh," and I was ready. But so, just it's and the foundation. I love everything you create. By the grace of God, he just gifted you to make amazing service and products. And the other thing that I love about you is one time I heard you say that for print school, you'll start your 2026 journal planner January 2025. And I saw an email come out January, sure enough, January 2025. And I said to my sister, everyone knows you in this house. I said, Polly is like, she's serious about how she serves and how she works her business. And it just means to me how serious you take it, how much of everything that you are you give to what God gave you. And that's what really inspires me. And I'm like, she's really on it. The meetings that you have, you're consistent and just the flow of everything. And were you always this
No, not at all. No, you know, me starting my planners early is from years of mistakes. Like, you know, when your planner can't arrive until November, and you don't know when it's going to come or if it gets stuck in customs for a month, you know, and you make mistakes, you bang up your knees, and then it's like, okay, we're not doing that again, you know, and
Yeah.
so you learn to work backwards on your goals and your
Hmm.
timelines because I've learned them, you know, and that's why
Yeah.
students really get like the easy path for me because I've already gone through the woods with a machete, like, like no one was helping me, you know,
Yeah.
learn these lessons. And like, you have to order by April, you know, you have to order
Yes.
by May for this deadline. And And that seems really odd because we're in such an Amazon Prime generation of like,
Yes.
I just want this. Like, surely I can have it next week. Like, what's the big deal? And that's why a lot of people don't get into that business because they learn about it, then they're like, or they don't learn about it and they can't figure it out. They're either stuck in rabbit holes on the internet or they end up, finally finding the answers and they're like, oh, I wanted this tomorrow,
Yes.
But
Yeah.
um, what am I mean, I've always attempted to be organized, but I will say like I'm a creative person. So like
Hmm.
as a child, I was definitely known as like the person chasing butterflies. Like, people are talking in a circle and I'm just like staring off into the space. Like that's kind of who I was, a little more of a dreamer with my head in the clouds. And so
Yes.
I had to have a planner to remember anything. And I did really poorly in school until I really just got serious about
Hmm.
writing everything down, caring, and like, I don't want to, that peer pressure of like not wanting to be the kid that makes all the D's and the C's.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I really worked hard through writing stuff down and keeping that with me because I cannot, my memory is terrible. Like I would lose everything. I'm messy. And so I'm not the typical planner type A person. Like I'm not OCD
Wow.
in any way. But I have learned the more you can systemize your business, the more you can have structure in your life and in your business, the more freedom you have. So often
Yeah.
we think of a, structure as a jail or something to contain you, but it's actually freedom. And that's the same in the gospel.
Yeah.
There is structure and things that he has called us to do. And it's in that structure we have freedom, like the Sabbath, like, oh,
Yeah.
that seems so rigid, but like, oh my gosh, isn't there so much freedom in
Oh,
unplugging and resting and refueling, And so the more I can write down my processes, take the time to slow down and put it all into a system, the more I can step away and actually
hmm.
delegate and have more freedom. And I didn't get like you got to work in my business for a bit and
Yeah.
you got to see the system when it was like built out. Like that
Oh.
system that you saw in Meistertask specifically is a system that I learned from Chelsea Joe of Systemize Your Life. And I was like one of her beta clients, and
Hmm.
it was life changing, like literally life
Yeah.
to be able to actually hand something off that is a repeatable task card so that my team knows what they're doing. And I even remember what I told people to do because, like, I can't carry that mental load. Like, I am the cap on the growth of the business if I'm unable to handle
Yes.
responsibilities fully. And so, by doing that and using her system, uh,
Hmm.
it's just been so helpful to actually hand things off because I've been
Yeah.
honestly really terrible at that. And it's so those are hard lessons to learn as a leader. Um,
Hmm.
and I'm really non-confrontational. So like I don't want to like deal with things sometimes. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, it's fine, But
Yeah.
they like if you want that excellence and also you want to have time to be with your kids, like you have to
Hmm.
off.
Yeah. And I didn't realize that I thought you were a planner. Like, I'm telling, I'm so happy I got to work for you because the way you have everything, and I'm like, God, I need to be like this. And this is how you do this. And so I've never been a planner. And when I got to be a part of your launch team for your planner, and sure enough, January, I sat there and I just thought about the planner, and I said, I have to touch this planner. I can't let 2025 pass and I don't do anything with this. And I'm like, and I'm not going to give it to anybody because I love this planner. And so I got this one. And as I said, I'm not a planner, but if you
Hmm.
could see,
Yay.
started writing in it, and Holly, this thing has gotten me to get things done. This is my favorite thing here.
Hmm.
I feel so accomplished. I feel so proud of me. And when you sent me the email and said you were proud of me, I feel like crying again. I felt like crying. No, I didn't feel like crying. I cried because again, It's just how I see you and just the spirit of excellence. So to hear Polly said that she's proud of me, I'm like, God, this I'm in the right place. And so, like, what is the dream planner about? Like,
Mhm.
what's the vision or the objective to your the people who purchased this, or who's
Mhm.
interested? What is it about?
Yeah. So the dream planner, and for those of you who really love a digital planner, like maybe you have a Google Calendar or the calendar on your phone, it's not really a replacement for that. You can use both
Hmm.
systems together because we live in a digital world. We're going to have meetings and Zoom links and stuff. Like we had a digital meeting for this.
Yeah.
Planner is a space for you to dream, to refocus, to be
Hmm.
intentional, and to write down like what are the things I need to do every single week so I can become the person I want to become. And
Hmm.
making sure I'm filling my cup and assessing the areas of my life so I can start to pump air in the tire in a certain area. Like maybe it's your marriage needs more love this week, or maybe it's your finances need more attention, and so often whatever is our weakness, we want to ignore, it's like,
Yeah.
oh, I don't want to look. I don't want to look, and,
Yeah.
but the areas we're strong in, that's usually what we spend time in. And we like to set goals in our strengths because they're fun, because that's what we
Yeah.
hit. And that's where we get that dopamine rush from like actually hitting our goals in that area.
Yeah.
And so the planner wants to look at you holistically, and then for
Hmm.
you to make time in your schedule for you. Because so often our schedule is just filled with people pleasing and surviving. It's like, all right, what did I commit to? I don't want to drop the ball. And like, we're usually overcommitted. And then surviving, like the food, the laundry, whatever, grocery
Yeah.
shop, whatnot. And um, we want you to have a week where you're also being really intentional about making time for your dreams,
Yeah.
for the priorities in your life, for your health, and like
Yeah.
doing it. Because if you have a certain area of your life where you want to become something, I know for me as a mom, like I have to log the hours with my kids. Like I
Hmm.
need to spend the quality time, not just the time where we're in the house together, but like
Yeah.
intentional time.
Yeah.
Um, because for me, I can get so wrapped up in work and just doing
Hmm.
that because that's what I love. It's what I know. I've got my systems, I got my little, but it's like,
Yeah.
okay, I really need to step back and finger paint,
Yeah.
So having that space in my calendar to really look at, um, what, who I want to become, and creating a schedule that allows
Hmm.
me to take those baby steps towards it.
Hmm. I think it's super powerful too to write it down. And just
Mhm.
very recently, I've always made a habit. I did this with bills, which is I wrote the bills down that I felt were too much for me. Well, I wrote everything down, but I wrote those bills down and I would watch God mark them off. And these were supernatural because my income did not match the bills. And and I remember he reminded me of Habakkuk 2, I can never say it, but write the
Mhm.
vision, make it plain. And he said to me, Rosalie, write the vision for me too. So when I walk by, I can handle your situation. And so that's what this has become for me. And I would
Mhm.
forget, I literally like you, I forget what is it that I have to do. And I go back to this and I'm like right back on track. And
Yeah,
so
for the glory of God. It's for the
but the
glory of God. Hmm.
right back on track and I'm not missing anything and I'm trying to keep the dates and if I don't miss it, I give myself grace. I just move it to the next week. And
Hmm.
so I just really love what you've made. I love your ministry of getting people to do the dream that God gave them. And and so where can they find this?
Yeah,
Where
of
can
course.
they find you?
Yeah, of course. Well, I have a little space of the internet called HoracioPrinting.com. That's HORACIO printing.com. So you can find me there. I also have an Instagram handle, same name, Horatio Printing. I have a personal Instagram, Polly_Payne, Payne. Also hang out there a bit and share more of my personal journey. If you want to learn more about printing your thing, I have a website for that. It's called dreamprinting.co. So those are all the places you can find me.
Yes, which I am also a student. So all her products, I'm telling you, is amazing. Done with excellent. You won't be lost. and she gives you all of her. So
Mhm.
I'm I cannot tell you enough about Polly. And so, is there any last thing I always like to ask my audience, I mean, my guests, is there any last thing you would want to leave with these
Mhm.
ladies?
I was just thinking about St. Patrick's Day because it's
Mhm,
like March. I'm not sure when this is airing, but I saw someone
mhm,
say like this just kind of stuck out to me recently. I love like little quotes and things.
mhm,
But it was I find I have a lot more luck when I work hard, you know?
mhm.
And so I think it's important for us to wait on the Lord.
Yeah.
But there's also action in the waiting when we
Mhm,
intertwine with him.
mhm.
My preacher used to say, like, God will do what you cannot do, but you must do what you can do because God's not going to do what you can do. So we have to
Yeah.
give our 100 and he will show up and give his 100. So don't be
Oh,
afraid to make mistakes and try and learn and fail. There is
yeah.
education in that. It's a data point. It doesn't identify you as a failure. I have failed so many times and made
Mhm.
so many mistakes. I spelled Horatio wrong when I started my business. So don't be afraid to make mistakes. Like the people out there that are still doing it in business and making it happen, like they have just failed a lot and they've been
Yeah.
quick to make mistakes and learn. And so that's part of it. And so if
Yeah.
you've started your business, you've made some mistakes and like, whoop, that didn't work. That's okay. That's just a data point.
Yeah.
It's just my biggest piece of advice because we're all going to deal with that voice of doubt and fear. And so, yeah, I just love that. Like, I find I have more luck when I work hard.
I love that. I'm going to take that because it ministered to me. Just keep going and doing it. And you've, like you said, you've been doing business for 10 years. So there's a lot you've learned.
Mhm.
And so I am so happy. Polly, thank you so much.
Thank you
Thank you
so much
so
for
much.
having me. This was an honor.
Oh, it was amazing. Thank you.